Have you ever wondered why certain people won't leave your mind? You try to move on. You distract yourself. You meet new people. Yet they still show up in quiet moments, in dreams, in random memories, even when you wish they wouldn't. Carl Jung had a theory. He believed our minds don't hold on to things for no reason. Thoughts that won't go away mean something. They point to unfinished emotions, unresolved connections, or deeper parts of ourselves we haven't faced. Let's break it down. Your brain doesn't just store facts, it holds on to feelings. It remembers what moved you, what hurt you, what shaped you. It keeps things that have weight, whether you like it or not. You forget thousands of faces. People you pass on the street, classmates from years ago, even some old coworkers. But not this person. Why? Because they left a mark. The stronger the emotional charge, the harder it is to let go. Your mind isn't trying to torture you, it's trying to tell you something. Ever heard a song from years ago and felt like you were back in that moment? That's because the brain doesn't store time the way we think. It stores emotion. When something is unresolved, it stays active. If a person triggered strong feelings, love, pain, regret, admiration, your mind keeps them around. Not because it wants to, but because it feels unfinished. Jung believed these lingering thoughts were clues. They show where we need to look, where we have work to do. Jung had another theory, one bigger than just personal memory. He called it the collective unconscious. This means our minds aren't just personal storage units. They are connected to something larger. We all inherit patterns, symbols, and emotions that go beyond our own lives. Ever feel a deep connection to someone, even if they weren't in your life for long? That might be why. Some people tap into something bigger, an archetype, a lesson, a connection that stretches beyond just this lifetime. Science backs this up too. Your brain builds neural pathways based on emotional experiences. The more intense the experience, the stronger the pathway. Think of it like carving a trail in the woods. Walk it once and it barely leaves a mark. Walk it every day and it becomes a road. The same happens in your brain. If someone impacted you deeply, your mind created a well-worn path to them. That's why they come back so easily. Your brain has wired them into your emotional landscape. Jung believed the unconscious doesn't work against you. It works for you. If someone won't leave your thoughts, it's not just nostalgia. It's not just a habit. It's a message. Your mind holds on to what needs attention. Maybe you need closure. Maybe you need to face something in yourself. Maybe they represent a part of you that's waiting to be understood. Instead of trying to shove the thoughts away, ask yourself, what feelings come up when I think of this person? What unfinished emotions are still there? Do they remind me of something I haven't faced? Your mind isn't being cruel, it's asking you to look deeper. Thoughts don't linger for no reason. Your brain isn't just playing old tapes, it's holding on to what still matters, what still has meaning. Jung saw the unconscious as a guide, not an enemy. If someone won't leave your mind, don't just brush it off. Pay attention. There's something there. And that's where we start. You think about them more than you'd like. Maybe you admire them. Maybe they annoy you. Maybe you miss them. Whatever the feeling, it's strong, and it won't go away. But here's the real question. What if this isn't about them at all? Carl Jung believed the people who take up space in our minds are often mirrors. They reflect parts of ourselves we haven't accepted, understood, or integrated. Sometimes they show us what we lack. Other times they reveal what we deny. Either way, they hold a hidden connection to who we are. Let's break this down. Ever met someone and instantly liked or disliked them, even without a logical reason? That's projection in action. Projection happens when we take feelings, desires, or traits within ourselves and place them onto someone else. Instead of recognizing them as part of us, we see them in the other person. If we admire someone's confidence, it might be because we want to be more confident ourselves. If someone irritates us for no clear reason, they might remind us of a part of ourselves we don't like. If we idealize someone, we might be ignoring their flaws because we crave what they represent. The mind does this unconsciously. It's easier to put emotions on someone else than to face them in ourselves. Think of a movie screen. The person in your thoughts is like an actor on that screen. But the real story, that's happening behind the scenes, in your unconscious mind. You're not just thinking about them. You're thinking about what they symbolize. Ask yourself, what is it about them that grabs my attention? Do they represent something I wish I had or something I fear? Am I projecting an expectation onto them that they can't actually fulfill? Jung believed that until we recognize our projections, we'll stay stuck. The mind will keep showing us the same patterns, the same people, the same emotions, until we finally face them. Jung had another concept, the shadow self. The shadow is the part of us we hide, the traits, feelings, and desires we suppress because we don't want to admit they exist. If you were taught that anger is bad, you might push it down, only to get annoyed by people who express theirs freely. If you grew up believing you had to be selfless, you might judge people who put themselves first. If you secretly feel insecure, you might envy people who seem effortlessly confident. And here's the key. The shadow always finds a way out. If we don't face it, it shows up in other people. That's why some people trigger us. They bring out feelings we don't want to deal with. They activate parts of us we've buried, and that's why they stick in our minds. You idolize someone? Maybe they represent a trait you secretly wish you had. You resent someone. Maybe they reflect a part of you that you reject. You feel an intense attraction. Maybe they awaken a side of you that's been asleep. You keep replaying past conversations. Maybe something was left unsaid. Not to them, but to yourself. The shadow isn't just about negative traits. It's about any part of us we've ignored. Even positive qualities can end up in the shadow if we've been told we can't or shouldn't embody them. Until we integrate these parts, the mind will keep bringing people into our thoughts who reflect them. If someone is stuck in your mind, stop focusing on them. Instead, focus on what they represent in you. Ask yourself, what emotion do I feel when I think about this person? Admiration, jealousy, frustration, longing? What qualities do they have that stand out to me? Confidence, independence, emotional strength? Have I ever felt this way about someone else before? If yes, this might be a repeating pattern in your life. If I looked at this as a reflection of myself, what would it show me? Once you see the pattern, you take back your power. The mind doesn't need to keep fixating on the person because you've received the lesson. The people we can't stop thinking about aren't random. They are symbols, mirrors, and messages. The mind holds on to them because it's trying to show us something. If you feel stuck on someone, look inward. The real work isn't about them, it's about you. Some people don't just linger in your mind. They feel like they're meant to be there. You try to move on, but the universe keeps bringing them back. Their name pops up. You see someone who looks like them. A song reminds you of a moment you shared. Coincidence? Or something deeper? Carl Jung believed these moments weren't random. He called them synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that reveal hidden connections between people, events, and the unconscious mind. And that's just one reason why someone stays in your thoughts. Let's break it down. Have you ever been thinking about someone and then they suddenly text you? Or you randomly run into them after years apart? Jung believed these moments weren't just luck. They were signs of something deeper, something your unconscious mind was already picking up on. He saw the world as connected, not just physically, but psychologically. The same way dreams bring up hidden thoughts, real-life events can do the same. The mind picks up on patterns before we even realize it. That's why some people seem to show up in ways that feel almost orchestrated. It's not that the universe is controlling everything. It's that your mind is noticing clues, small connections you weren't consciously looking for. Ask yourself, why do I keep seeing reminders of this person? Is there something unresolved between us? What lesson might my unconscious be trying to show me? If you ignore the message, the reminders tend to keep coming. The mind will keep showing you the same pattern until you finally acknowledge it. Not all thoughts are spiritual. Some are biological. When we form strong emotional bonds, our brain literally rewires itself. The stronger the connection, the deeper the imprint. That's why breakups hurt. That's why grief lingers. Your brain creates neural pathways that link a person to certain feelings. safety, excitement, love, even pain. Those pathways don't disappear overnight. Have you ever smelled a familiar scent and suddenly felt like you were back in a memory? That's because your brain stores emotions in clusters. One small trigger can bring everything flooding back. So, if someone still occupies your thoughts, it might be because the emotional connection was never fully processed. Your brain still associates them with comfort, love, or even unresolved pain. There was no real closure, leaving an open loop in your mind. Your brain isn't clinging for no reason. It's searching for resolution. Jung didn't just study individuals, he studied patterns, recurring symbols that show up across all cultures and histories. He called these archetypes. An archetype is a universal figure that exists in our collective unconscious. It's not just a person, it's a symbol. The lover represents passion, desire, and connection. The mentor represents wisdom and guidance. The warrior represents strength and resilience. The shadow represents repressed parts of ourselves. Sometimes when someone won't leave your mind, it's because they've taken on one of these roles in your unconscious. A past love might represent more than just romance. They might symbolize your desire for deep emotional connection. A friend who betrayed you might not just be them. They could represent trust issues you've carried for years. A person you admire might reflect who you want to become, not just who they are. The mind doesn't just fixate on people, it fixates on what they symbolize. Ask yourself, does this person remind me of someone else from my past? What qualities stand out to me the most? Are they playing a specific role in my life story? Once you identify the pattern, the hold they have on your thoughts starts to weaken. If someone keeps showing up in your mind, don't just dismiss it. There's a reason. Look for the message. What is your mind trying to show you? Is there an unresolved emotion, lesson, or shadow aspect you haven't faced? Recognize patterns. Have you been in this situation before? Does this person remind you of someone else? Acknowledge the emotional bond. If the attachment is strong, it won't fade overnight. The key is to process it fully, not suppress it. See them as a symbol. Are they an archetype in your life story? Are they a reflection of a deeper theme in your life? Some people stay in our minds because we aren't done with them. Not physically, but psychologically. Whether it's a lesson, an unresolved emotion, or a part of ourselves we haven't accepted, our mind holds on to what still has meaning. But once we understand why they linger, we take back control. The thoughts stop being random, they become a guide. By now, you understand why someone lingers in your thoughts. It's not random, it's psychological, it's emotional, maybe even spiritual. Your mind holds on to people for a reason. Unfinished emotions, hidden lessons, unresolved connections. But now comes the real question. How do you finally let them go? Let's get into it. Step 1. Accept that this is about you, not them. This is the hardest truth to swallow. The person you can't stop thinking about, they're not the problem. The thoughts aren't about them. They're about what they represent in your mind. A past love might symbolize your fear of being alone. Someone who hurt you might be tied to unresolved self-worth issues. A person you admire might reflect qualities you wish you had. When you see this clearly, something shifts. You stop making it about them and start focusing on you. Ask yourself, what emotion keeps pulling me back? Love? Regret? Anger? Fear? What do they represent to me? A missing part of myself? An unresolved past wound? If they disappeared from my mind right now, what would I be left to deal with? Most people want to forget without first understanding, but you can't move on from something you haven't processed. Step 2. Feel what you've been avoiding. Let's be real. Most of us don't like to sit with uncomfortable feelings. We distract ourselves, we overthink, we analyze. We do anything except actually feel. But what if the reason this person won't leave your mind is because you've never fully let yourself feel what you needed to? If it's heartbreak, have you actually grieved? If it's resentment, have you acknowledged the hurt underneath? If it's longing, have you accepted what that desire says about you? You have to go through it to get past it. The thoughts will keep returning until the emotions behind them are felt and processed. Try this. Write it all out. Every thought, every feeling, every unspoken word. No filter. Just get it out of your head. Feel it in your body. Close your eyes. Where do you feel the emotion? Chest? Stomach? Shoulders? Let it be there without resisting. Give yourself permission to be sad, angry, or even relieved. Whatever needs to come up, let it. Unprocessed emotions don't disappear. They just find new ways to show up, like replaying someone in your mind over and over again. Step 3. Cut the emotional cord without erasing the lesson. Some people leave an imprint so deep it feels impossible to detach. That's because you're still emotionally connected to them, even if they're long gone. Jung believed that strong emotional bonds don't just exist in the conscious mind, they live in the unconscious, shaping how we think, feel, and even dream. So, how do you break free? You don't forget them. You don't pretend they never mattered. Instead, you cut the emotional cord, the invisible thread that keeps pulling you back. How? Symbolic closure. Write a letter you'll never send. Say everything you never got to say. Then burn it, shred it, or throw it away. Visualization exercise. Close your eyes. Picture the emotional bond between you and this person as a cord. Imagine cutting it, releasing them, and watching them fade into the distance. Reframe the story. Instead of thinking, I lost them, think, they were part of my growth. Their role in my story is complete. Letting go doesn't mean erasing, it means accepting the lesson and moving forward. Step 4, reclaim your energy and redirect your mind. If your thoughts are stuck on someone, that means a lot of your mental energy is going toward them. It's time to take that energy back. Catch yourself when they pop up. Instead of spiraling into old thoughts, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me? If not, shift your focus. Redirect your thoughts. Every time they come to mind, remind yourself, they were part of my past. My future is mine to create. Get busy creating something new. New habits, new goals, new experiences. When your life is full, the past naturally fades. The mind holds on to what feels important. The more you build a life that excites you, the less space old memories take up. Step 5. Integrate the lesson and move on. Jung believed in individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of yourself. That includes the painful, confusing, and emotional parts. If someone stayed in your mind for this long, there's a reason. They were a teacher. Maybe not in the way you wanted, but in the way you needed. Ask yourself, what did this experience teach me about myself? How have I grown from knowing this person? What will I take with me into my future? And what will I leave behind? When you can answer those questions honestly, you'll know you're truly free. Letting go isn't about forcing yourself to forget. It's about accepting what was, feeling what needs to be felt, and choosing to move forward with clarity. Some people stay in our minds because they're part of our story, but they don't have to define the next chapter. The power is yours. What's next? Now that you have the tools to understand, process, and release, the only thing left to do is apply them. Healing isn't instant, but every time you choose to focus on your own growth, every time you catch yourself before falling into old thought loops, every time you remind yourself you are bigger than your past, you take a step forward, and that's how you truly let go.